Frontend, backend, database, framework, cloud. Why do we have so many choices? If you ever struggle to pick the right tech stack for your project, you're not alone. With so many programming languages, frameworks, and tools out there, it's easy to get stuck in analysis paralysis. In this video, I'll break down how to choose the best tech stack for your project, whether it's a startup idea, a client project, or just something you're getting started with. We'll go step by step, keeping it simple, practical, and no BS. So before we start picking the tools, let's clear one thing. What even is a tech stack? See, a tech stack is a combination of technologies used to build an application. It's that simple. You can divide them into numerous categories if you want. So it can be like front-end, back-end, databases, infrastructure, etc. etc. Now the real question is this the right way? How do you pick the right one? So let's look into that. Step 1. Define your project requirement. See, before picking any tech stack, you need to ask yourself, what kind of application are you building? Is it a simple static website like landing page? If yes, then use HTML, CSS and JavaScript, no need for complex frameworks. If you're building dynamic applications like dashboard or social media, etc., use React, Vue, Angular, etc. for frontend, anyone, and Node.js, Django, or Ruby on Rails, or even Go for backend, whichever works for you. Or is it a mobile application? If yes, then go with React Native or Flutter. It's that simple. So there are some other categories of application which require even broader tech stack. So let's not get into that since it's a very advanced level. Step 2. Consider the scalability and performance. See, if your project is just a small side project, you don't need an enterprise level stack. But if you're building something that might scale, you need to think ahead. For example, let's say you're building a high traffic application. In that case, you need a backend language that can handle high concurrency. In this case, Golang and Java stands out here. And you can use load balancers and horizontal scaling techniques so that your entire architecture can scale really well. On the other hand, if you're planning to build real-time applications like chat or video call application, etc., consider using WebSockets with Node.js, very simple implementation, and also try to opt for a very simple database implementation as well with Firebase and Supabase since they manage everything for you. And of course, you can use WebRTC for P2P communication since at the moment that is the best piece of tech we have right now for P2P communication. Moving on, let's say you're building a large-scale enterprise application. Again, you have to choose a language which can handle high concurrency really well like Java or Golang. And you have to consider using event brokers like Kafka and RabbitMQ, or you can use gRPC for internal low latency communication. And do not forget to use Kubernetes to orchestrate everything that you've built for this enterprise application. So now that you have some idea about how to choose a tech stack based on the requirement, let's consider another scenario which deeply impacts the decisions you make. So the step 3 is look at the developer experience and learning curve. If you need fast development and easy learning, go with JavaScript and Firebase, great for quick MVPs and startups who are just building the product and want to launch quickly. If you need strong ecosystem and stability, go with Golang, Java, very good for long run and good for enterprise projects as well. If you're looking for performance and efficiency, go with Go, Rust or C++, ideal for low latency, high performance application. And here's a tip, if you're working solo, pick anything that you're comfortable with. But if you're working on a team, please consider the requirement of the project and also consider the skill of your team. Do not force them to learn anything new. Alright, so now let's take a look at some of the different use cases and try to come up with the best tech stack possible. The first one is personal project or portfolio website. It's a static website, so we can just use HTML and CSS and JavaScript. And if in case you need backend, try to stick with a managed backend or no code backend like Firebase or Supabase. And what about startup MVPs? Okay, MVPs are something where you need to launch the application as soon as possible with the core feature. So use React or Vue for the front end, very easy to set up, and use backend Node.js or Django if you're working with Python. And database, again, I would recommend Firebase here, or you can use Postgres. Okay. And what about a semi-enterprise level application? We can stick with React or Angular for front end here, and we can stick with Node.js or Go or maybe Java and Spring Boot for the backend. If it is again a very high performance backend, then go with Go or Java, and database Postgres again, and you can add Redis for caching. And for infrastructure, you can use AWS to deploy this application, maybe with add Docker and Kubernetes to improve the developer experience. Cool. So these were the very basic use cases and a very simple tech stack which can get the work done very easily. So moving on, budget and cost consideration. See, tech stack also impact hosting and infrastructure costs. So the first thing is for low cost hosting, use Vercel, Firebase or Supabase. Okay, you have free tiers in them and you can use AWS free tier as well, but it's very easy to mess up with AWS. Okay, and for large scale application, consider going with a cloud, either Google Cloud, AWS or DigitalOcean. And here's a tip. If you're building a startup, keep it simple because people in startup tend to over engineer everything, and just try to make sure it works for 10 users. Scale eventually. Do not implement the scalability at the beginning and raise the cost for the initial deployment. Choosing the right tech stack doesn't have to be overwhelming. Start with your project's requirement. Think about scalability. Pick something that you and your team can actually work with. And remember, there's no perfect tech stack. So drop a comment. What tech stack are you using for your current project? And let's talk about that.